the Kaiser Wi-Fi. We're outside, just chilling. All right. So we're live. Yeah, it's official. We're officially live. Okay. So, man, it's been a minute since we linked up. We've been trying to, make it work, but things get in the way. But I'm finally happy to just have you back on, man. How's things going?
Good, man. Yeah, happy to be on. It's been a crazy couple of weeks since we last talked. It seems like every time we take a little break, all the stuff pops off. It's just nonstop, just craziness. So I don't know what that means, but they wait till we stop talking and they just like let's do all the moves right now.
I know it's been like forever. It's almost been like over a month, I want to say, since we
Yeah,
last talked, but it's night and day from what the Niners look like to what they were. So
yeah.
I've been meaning to like get your opinion on this. This video is strictly going to be about like what the Niners, what their plan is for rounds 1 and 3. So we're going to look at positions in need. But I wanted to ask you, you've already told me who you like, but let the people know, Aaron, who you want the Niners to take at 3 overall.
I want Trey Lance, and the reason I say that is because to me he's that lottery ticket, right? He when you look at him, Fields and Jones, to me, Mac Jones has the highest floor, right? I think he could, if you had to pick one of them to start day one, right, and maybe take you files like Mac Jones is that guy. But
Yeah.
I don't know how high the ceiling is, right? I think like when I look at Fields and I look at Jones, I say, are they going to get that much better? No, I just don't see it. But with Lance has that chance to I think I say he has a chance to be the Niners Mahomes, like that guy that's just MVP caliber, just wows you. That guy, he has the chance to be that guy. And if you're gonna make the trade they made, like to me, like you're doing it for that lottery pick. You're not. I guess to me, like what you trade all that just to take Mac Jones. I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where people are at, right? It's just like the fact that Mac Jones, like this whole report of or people just choosing Mac Jones over the other guys, and that hasn't gone away, and we're like less than a week away from the draft. Man, that kind of scares me a little bit because even though people say, "Man, that's smokescreen," like I don't. A lot of people really love Mac Jones. I was one of them, right? I remember I told you I was just like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty high on Mac Jones. I don't know about 3 though. At 12, at the
Oh
time
yeah.
when we spoke about that, I was like, yeah, Mac Jones may be a nice solid pick at 12. But then the Niners moved up, and I'm like, now it's interesting, right? Because now they're targeting someone specific, assuming that they take the Lawrence and Wilson was going to be taken 1 and 2, right?
Right.
So I'm just like, okay, they're targeting a specific player that's going to be available, and that was either Mac Jones, Fields, or Lance. I personally have no clue who they're going to take. I've been like going back and forth. Originally, I was like, maybe Mac Jones. That's a guy that Shanahan would really love if he watched this tape and stuff like that. And now I'm like, Fields, man. Fields has kind of won me over a little bit. And I think that right now, Fields is better suited to be a Niner than Lance. Though I hear your point. Like, Lance has the highest upside out of anyone in the draft. Anyone.
Yeah.
Like, he could be up there. He could be, a Josh Allen type of talent and with room to grow. Obviously, you have to be patient with him, but I'm conflicted, man. I haven't been conflicted like this in a very long time, and I'm just like, man, this is like one of those picks that's gonna determine Shanahan and Lynch's legacy, man. Like
Oh,
this is it. Like they're in a position where this could either be a dynasty or the biggest flop in Niner history.
yeah. It's they went all in to use the poker term, right? They said, okay, all in. This is it. Like it's either going to be boom or bust. And I mean, that's why, like I said, with Jones, and my thing is, if you want Mac Jones or that kind of guy, it's like you could have gotten Stafford for basically, I don't want to say nothing, but basically nothing. If you want that guy that can, has a good arm and all that, like you could have gotten Stafford for the next couple of years for a swap of draft. Like you didn't have to do much, right? Like if you wanted that Mac Jones type,
Yeah,
Stafford was available. You could have gotten that guy for nothing, basically. To make this kind of move, like this is a all-in move. This is like you said, career defining for Lynch, for Shanahan. It's their opportunity to be relevant for the next, 10 seasons. It's their, I'm sure they saw Russell Wilson in Seattle and like, we want that guy who every year, no matter who we put out there around him, like he'll get us to the playoffs. He gives us a shot. That Aaron Rodgers guy, every year you got a shot. Every year. And
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. And I have a really hard time believing that the Niners really moved up to 3 to draft Mac Jones. Like, uh, I'll be really shocked if the Niners really do that. I know Shanahan really does love him, just based on like how he still talks about Kirk Cousins a whole like 4 years later. Like there's still love for him there. Like I have no doubt if we didn't get Jimmy in that trade, Kirk Cousins would be the Niners quarterback right now.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like there is definitely a thing with Shanahan loving like those quarterbacks that are extremely accurate, really just is going to run the system like not to perfection, but how Shanahan wants it. And we haven't seen yet. I mean, you could go back to like RG3, but we all know how that ended up. Where when they get that mobile quarterback, things do change, right? On how he runs things. Um, but I'm not 100% sure if that's what Shanahan wants. At the end of the day, this comes down to Shanahan. Like he's gonna be the one making this call, right? He has all these 3 options available, and it's Shanahan. It's not Lynch. This is Shanahan's decision. This is his quarterback. This is gonna be his baby. And I feel personally that it should be either Fields or Trey Lance. And I'm leaning more towards Fields right now at this point.
And to be clear, I would be fine with Fields. To me, like you said, if Fields or Lance, if I have my pick, I'm picking Lance. But they grab Fields, I'm totally fine with Fields too. I think I kind of have like Lance is my favorite. Fields is that second, and then Jones. But yeah, I would be totally fine with Fields if they grab
Yeah.
Fields. And I think, like you said, with the system, does I mean we saw what happened with RG3, but RG3 these guys I think are built a little different, right? Where they could probably handle some of the hits. Where RG3 was just, I mean, I've seen bigger calves on the chicken. You know what I'm saying? Like he just wasn't
Yeah.
built for those kind of hits. Whereas like Fields, he's a pretty stocky guy. He can take some hits. Lance is a thick dude too. Like kind of that we'll see. They can take some of those hits where they take that offense to just another level. With that escapability, with their off, kind of off platform throws and the plays they can do when the play breaks down. It just takes
I
it to
think
another
that it's one of those learning experiences for a head coach. Is like this whole time you want someone to run the offense at your vision, but at the end of the day, what we're seeing in the NFL is those quarterbacks that make the non-scripted plays, right?
level. Yeah.
And so it's not the end all be all, but it's highly important. And that's what Trey Lance and Justin Fields brings to the table. Like if I'm the head coach, I'm picking Fields, right? But I'm not. Shanahan is. We'll learn pretty soon if Shanahan has maybe gotten out of his comfort zone in drafting one of these guys, one of those 2 guys, because honestly, like if you were to put them all, like just say Shanahan, who do you want right now? I think he picks Jones. But
Yeah.
if you ask him, like, okay, he's going to be your quarterback for the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years with high potential, then that's when we're getting into Fields and Lance territory. But I don't know. Like Shanahan, he's brilliant, but we all have flaws, man. We all have flaws. We all have a vision, and we're yet to see that from Shanahan. But we'll get our answer pretty soon.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you, like you said, if it was this year, you take Jones. But for me, it's well, then go make the trade for Stafford. Then I think if you're just like, hey, this year everybody's healthy, everything's all things being equal, like then go grab Stafford. Like Stafford could do it, right? So if that's what you're looking, but like you said, once you talk 5 years, 10 years, your legacy, it has to be one of those other two dudes. Like it just I think it has to be. I mean, if it's I'll be fine with Jones. I've come around accepted because I think as a Niner fan, like you have to accept that, right? Like at this point, like they may take Jones. So if you're a Niner fan, you just better just suck it up and just hope that you're wrong, right? If you didn't want Jones, you just hope you're wrong and he is just everything Shanahan thinks he is, and just kind of just
Yeah,
learn to accept it, right? Like you're just gonna have to.
yeah, totally. And I think that with um, with that mindset of like, oh, I want someone to just be accurate, be efficient. Well, Jimmy was sort of that, right? Like we still forget that Jimmy is still a decent quarterback in this league. He's just always hurt. And so if he wants to get away from that, because if you draft Mac Jones, the only difference is he has a bigger arm,
Yeah,
but he has no mobility, just like Jimmy. Jimmy lost that after that knee injury too. Like he had a little bit of that, and we saw it in 2017. But after that knee injury, he kind of lost all like sense of pocket awareness and like just mobility in that knee. And so Fields and Lance, like please, those are the only options. I don't know why Mac Jones is still being brought up at number 3, but it is what it is. And there's gonna be a riot. There's gonna be a riot if it's Mac Jones. I'm telling you this right now. Levi Stadium is gonna be on fire if that's
right.
the case.
That is truth. Because I think like you said, Jones is Jimmy with a better arm, maybe a touch more athleticism, but not much
Yeah,
more. And
I'm
it's funny you
saying
mentioned
that.
2000. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned 2017. I was watching Jimmy's those 5 games, the end of 2017, and man, like it's like what like it's so night and day. You watch those, and then you watch the games he played this year. It's such a night and day difference. Like the bounce and the step just in the pocket. He ran a lot more. It was like if you said we have that Jimmy, I'd be like, okay, go take Cal Pitts or somebody, man. Like that Jimmy, like I love his quick release. Like you watch that guy, and it's like, man, that guy can like when you watch those 5 games, you can say I can see why they gave him the contract. You remember why we had such high hopes because just that little 5 game samples, like I think we got something here. And then like you say, he blew out the knee, and then he's good in 2019, but it was I think the line was better. This last year was
Yeah.
as good, and then you saw he had to make those off script plays, and he just not built for that, not made for that.
And I hope that Shanahan learns from that and says, you know what, I need a guy that's gonna be durable, be mobile, extend the plays when it's not there, reads the field well, and is accurate at the end of the day. Which Fields and Lance has a combination of a few of those things, and I think that right now the more NFL ready is Fields, but um, I'm interested to see what Lance can bring in the next, like 2-3 years from now, how he looks. Because one thing we don't realize or we tend to forget is with Lance, he didn't really have what he played one game in 2020,
Yeah,
and
17
yeah,
total.
so it's like we're watching more so 2019 tape. That's 2 years removed when
Hmm.
it's not really a fair comparison compared to what Fields like we were able to see like a dozen games from him this past year, and then 2019 is still there. So I'm pretty confident if we would have saw more tape on Lance this past year, he'd be probably the clear cut number 3 overall pick.
He might be the number two. I think the thing that killed him is he didn't, like you said, he didn't play. He played one game. If you take COVID out of the equation, or if his team had played, he had decided to play the whole season. Because that's kind of how Zach Wilson got to number two, right? Like he was kind of on the radar for people, but I don't think anybody going into last season or this last season was thinking Zach Wilson will be the number two pick. I don't think you
No,
could find anybody who has said that, but he played, right? So he's able to showcase it
he was coming off
and,
injury
and yeah, and was able to elevate his stock. Whereas if Lance could have done that, we may be looking at him as the clear number two. He may not even be in this conversation. We might be
because
talking
he,
about looking for
yeah,
the Niners.
because he
You
had
know,
mechanical issues like in 2019, and I'm pretty sure he's been working on correcting that and making it more accurate. Because you watch some of his games, what people are knocking Lance for is like his accuracy. He's hit or miss, and that's a
yeah,
mechanical issue from what I've been hearing from pros. So, yeah, like let's just be fair here. Like Lance missed out on all those games, which he could have showed what he can actually do, and he is very like he ran kind of a similar system to what he can expect if he comes to Niners.
yeah. They definitely run a very pro style out of the three: Ohio State, Alabama, and North Dakota State. Like North Dakota definitely runs a much more pro style system. He has to make calls at the line of scrimmage. He has that responsibility, which you like to see, right, from your quarterback. Like, okay, you have experience, making those calls at the line, seeing what the defense is doing, like that. I think that's a good, like that shows some mental acuity, right? That okay, you can see that you're making the correct reads. I think that it is, I mean, huge, especially for someone who is as, I mean, Shanahan's such a brainiac, right? With just the way he breaks everything down. I think he wants that guy who he can have that connection with, and have that mental, like, hey, I'm seeing it here on my play sheet, and you're seeing it on the field, and we're just kind of one brain, right? So it's nice to see that Lance has kind of that experience instead of like, you know, the other two maybe getting it fed to him a little bit more. Obviously they can learn, but Lance is, I think, from a smarts perspective, maybe ahead of the curve that way, right?
Yeah. I want to get to this comment here by Spy Nick. He said, "You either trust your coach and GM or you don't. If it's Mac, then fans just have to deal with it." And I mean,
Exactly.
it's true. Like, if they draft Mac, I'm like, all right, let's
Yeah.
go. Like,
Yeah.
we're all gonna be rooting for him either way. Like, there's no way around it, and we hope for the best if that's the case.
Yeah.
Just if it's up to me, then I'm getting another guy. But one thing we also have to remember is like they're drafting for a long term, right? They still have what 5 years left after this year, and
Yeah. They got
so
6 years, right? 6 year
yeah,
extension. Mhm.
so it's basically hitting the reset on the quarterback. They experimented with Jimmy. It hasn't panned out, so now they're moving on. And if they get the Trey Lance, they have that time to develop and yeah, develop them to be a
Yeah.
good quarterback.
And that's what Lynch said when he came in, right? An eye towards the present, but an eye towards the future at the same time. Like he's always,
Yep.
and the drafts have kind of been that way. What they've done in free agency, they've really, I think, done a very good job of mixing in free agents that can help you now, right? Immediate impact free agents, and then drafting for kind of now, but also for the future depth pieces, that kind of thing. So they've done a really good job of, I mean, really, I mean, let's be honest, they turned that team around very quickly. And, we both said, with health this season, with the free agents signings they made this offseason, they'd be right back to a Super Bowl like that this season. No problem. So, I mean, that's a kudos to them for, like I said, the eye for the present, also thinking about the future. Look at Fred Warner, all pro, right? I mean, that dude is the best linebacker in football right now. Like, Kittle, like some of these kind of later round picks, right?
Yeah.
3, 4, 5th rounders that, most people hadn't heard of, and these guys are all pro, top of their position guys. They're going to be for years to come. It's pretty impressive.
I'm pretty curious to like get your opinion on why maybe Fields gets talked to or gets talked about in terms of a mostly in a negative. It feels like um, there's that stigma of him being an Ohio State quarterback, so those never pan out. But I mean, outside of that, I don't see any character issues. Like we get into Mac Jones like history, he has character issues with that whole DUI thing. I don't know if you know that, but um, there's definitely question marks on like how serious is he at being quarterback. Just look at his body. I mean, me and him have the same body type, so I'm just like, just from that standpoint, that's already a knock on Mac Jones for me, right?
Right.
Um, Trey Lance looks like he's committed, right?
Oh yeah.
Because you go back, he was recruited from Minnesota to be like a safety. He said, "Nah,
Yep.
I want to be quarterback." I respect that. He went and did that, and that commitment level is there with Trey Lance. With Justin Fields, I feel like there's always like something negative to say about him.
Yeah, and I don't understand it myself. I think part of it's that Ohio State thing. And to be fair, when people say, "Oh, Ohio State quarterbacks, Alabama quarterbacks," like that's pretty. But there is no school that just kicks out, these Hall of Fame quarterbacks, right? Like you go through.
Right.
I think I went through like every starting quarterback last year. And I think only two or three schools had more than one starting quarterback. It was like Clemson, and I think when you include Trevor Lawrence, who we assume will start this next season. And there was like one or two other schools. Like there is no, it's not like Penn State linebacker U or Miami used to just kick out running backs, right? Every year, McGahee, Gore, like I mean, they just kicked them out like every year. You just bet or receivers. There is no school that's like, oh, that's the quarterback school right there. That's it. So the idea of Ohio State not producing, I mean, I guess if you look in recent history, I know, but
Yeah, you could say it
I,
about like every school. Like
yeah,
just because every year there's like they're gonna have a quarterback because they're a top school and it's not always gonna pan out. So I don't ever take that argument seriously.
yeah,
But
it's
it's come up. It's come up, and
weird. Yeah, it's a weird thing. Same thing. Like I know Mac Jones when they first, the kind of knock on him too, right? It was like, oh, he goes to Alabama, man. He's throwing the Jalen Waddle. He's throwing the Devontae Smith. Like, of course he's good, right? Like you got two receivers are probably going to go top 15, maybe top 10. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he'd be pretty good throwing to them. So there was that knock on him. And I think I think that's the difference between us as fans, right? And then, a Shanahan, a Lynch scouts who, break down the film, like, and what they're looking for is different than what we're looking at, right? And I think that's the difference. Like, coaches are looking for something. I think us fans look at things like, oh, he made a great
yeah,
throw. Shanahan's looking like, where
yeah,
was his footwork? Where was the play supposed to go? Where was the throw supposed to go? He's looking at all those
right,
things. He's looking for something. We're looking at something. I think that's the big difference
exactly.
between, yeah.
Yep, exactly. I 100% agree. And us as fans, we're too dumb to understand it. I'm trying to learn it. I'm trying to be like all in when I'm watching film, like understand what's going on. Obviously, we're not there, but yeah, I mean it's true. We see it time and time again. There's always quarterbacks that you're like, you're scratching your head why they were drafted that high. Like I go back to Daniel Jones when the Giants drafted him. Everybody's like, "What the fuck was that?" But yeah, we can say that was probably a mistake. But they saw something they liked. And then there's guys who slip for some reason.
Yeah, Mahomes.
Lamar Jackson. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's quite a few good quarterbacks that slip because for
yeah,
some, and usually I mean, you're never gonna get the full story, but like there's always never like with Mahomes, he was seen as like, yeah, he came from Texas Tech, kind of air raid. Does that transfer over, right? Like, is it he's just that good, or is the system that just produces this, kind of yards, right? Okay, like fair point. Watson, I think he suffered from that same thing. he's on a stacked freaking team. I mean, that those Clemson teams were, I mean, insanely stacked, and that worked against them. And how many GMs and coaches are kicking themselves for not taking Watson or even both in that same draft, right? Like they lasted for. I mean, when you think of what they are, like, oh man, like the Bears, right? They just got rid of Trubisky, right? They traded up for that guy in that draft. They could have had Watson or Mo, either one. They didn't even have to
Yeah.
trade up.
It's funny you brought up Watson and Mahomes. You think that the Niners moved up because they know they made a mistake, 4 years back. They're trying to make up for it now.
I think the philosophy now is when you see your guy that you want, go give him. Like I think if you think that's the guy that's going to take you to Super Bowls, go give him. Like you know what I'm saying? You can kind of play that game where okay, we can hope everything breaks just right, right? Like Jared Goff got to the Super Bowl 2 seasons or 3 seasons ago, I guess now, because everything kind of broke just right for him. But he's not a guy you're counting on to take you to a Super Bowl every year, right? He's not even close to the same levels of Mahomes or Watson or Wilson, or really any of those guys, right? And you have to make sure
Right.
everything has to break just right, or you can get that Mahomes, you can get that guy who comes in and he is like that piece, right? That every year, if you just put one or two pieces around him, you're a title contender every year. And so I think if you have a chance to move up and get that guy's just MVP caliber guy every year, you have to pull the trigger. I
Yeah.
don't know if they regret not getting Mahomes or Watson. And like you said, I think Shanahan really thought he was going to get Cousins. He loves him some Cousins. If people find you someone who loves you the way Shanahan loves Cousins. That's all
Hey,
I'm going
hey, that's all I'm
to.
saying.
I told my wife that. I'm like, I love you. Like Shanahan loves Cousins. She knows what I mean by that, and it's just like that's why the
Perfect
running joke.
Valentine's card. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think he thought he was going to get Cousins. So I think he was like, well, whatever. That's my guy. He was just locked in. He had the horse blinders on, and yeah. So I think now I'm sure Lynch probably got in his ears like, look, man, if you think there's a guy here that can be the guy, like I'll make the deals for you, right? Like I'll make it happen. You tell me who that guy is, I'll make it happen.
Yeah. And it should be a home run because they gave up what, 3 first-round picks.
Yeah.
Now that's what quarterbacks are going nowadays. So I mean, this is another thing too. Like with the whole Watson situation, like unfolding, looks like that's going to be a complete disaster. I'm pretty sure that if that wouldn't have happened, they probably were ready to package that to Texans for Watson. I mean,
Honestly,
they
I'd rather have Watson than any of these guys, just because I think he's a
yeah, he's
proven guy. Still
proven,
young.
right? He's
Yeah.
proven that's the difference. And with this, we're still gambling. We're in position to gamble, but we're still gambling on somebody at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like this pick is going to determine whether this is gonna be a dynasty or is just gonna flop. And
Yeah.
that thought is scary in a way, but at the end of the day, you have to make that swing. You have to make that jump.
Yeah. I mean, you can stay pat and kind of do the same thing over and over again. You can be that 7-9, like the Rams every year, and you can kind of do that. Or yeah, you can take the big swing. And I think for this organization, I think they want to take that swing. They want to be that team like the Chiefs, or they want to be that continuously every season. That just you're always saying, hey, Niners. Why? Because they got the quarterback. Say the same thing about the Seahawks every year, right? They're a contender. Why? Who's their D line? Doesn't matter. They have Russell. They have number 3. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Exactly.
Packers have number 12. Chiefs have number 15. Wherever Brady goes, they have that guy. Like it's just that makes you a contender. That's the big piece, and everything kind of falls around that, right?
Yep. 100% agree. All right. Well, let's talk about the second round. I feel like not a lot of people are talking about the second round. We're all focused on the first round, for obvious reasons. But there's still some holes at on defense and some on offense. So, what position do you think the Niners target
It,
in the second round?
it's got to be corner, right? Like it's. I feel like it has to be.
Has to be.
I mean, they're still so. I mean, they're thin. I mean, I like Verrett. I like but Verrett, can he stay healthy for a whole season as the number one guy? We'll see. So you need some depth pieces, and Verrett's not super young either, right? But like you kind of need not only for depth pieces now, but you got to think 2, 3 again. That eye for the present, but the eye for the future. You got to start getting some depth in there that you can bring along, right? Like you can kind of have them kind of bring them along slowly. You don't have to force them in there, hopefully, from day one. So for me, it's got to be cornerback. What about you?
Yeah, you have to go corner. I feel like you're one injury away there from just what playing Dante Johnson. Like he's primarily a practice squad player. I mean, no diss on Dante Johnson. I mean, he's been in the league for a while
Right.
now, but to be a starter, nah, like that's not it. So you have to. I think you have to double down, go second, maybe even come back with it on the third, and you know, I do see like the Niners focus in on wide receiver because there too, like Debo hasn't really played a full season yet, right? I think the
Right.
first year he missed some games too. Could be
Yeah, I
wrong.
think.
Uh,
I don't remember if he missed. They kind of brought him along slowly, kind of regardless. Like I don't think he was.
that's
He
right.
was kind of. They kind of had him on the snap count for the first at least quarter of the season. He played, but wasn't a ton, and then they kind of brought him up as the season went. So
But last year, like he battled injury, um, and then we have what Richie James, Jalen Hurd, um, who am I forgetting? Sanu. We have Sanu in there. So I think like the Niners still have to get like their Kendrick Bourne replacement. There's some really good receivers here that you could get in the later rounds too.
oh
And so I think the Niners are always good at drafting another receiver. You can't have enough of those guys, really. But looking at the current pickups, Niners did get another edge with Arden Key, and then they
yeah,
got another defensive tackle in Bo
yeah,
Hurts. So
yep.
maybe they're for at least for this year, they're not going to be drafting one of those defensive tackles or edge rushers early. They're
No,
they're like taking a buy off of that for this year at least.
it'll be weird. I think I'm super curious if they try to jump, depending on who is there late first round. I wonder if they try to jump back into the first round. If for some reason one of those top corners kind of slips down. I mean, this is kind of a weird draft, right? Like there are so many question marks, so many things are up in the air. What teams are going to do? I mean, there's some. It's just it. This is a. It's going to be not just to watch what the Niners do, it's just kind of interesting to see what the league does, right? Like, what do the Falcons do at 4? There's so many question marks, right? Like, I don't think anybody really knows. So I can see if the Niners have a shot to jump back in if for some reason one of those corners, Farley or what was the other kid? Horn.
JC
Falls
Horn.
starts to slip. I wouldn't be surprised to see him jump back in and try to snag one of those guys if they feel like, hey, we can make this deal. I mean, I would certainly try to do that if I could.
I think Horn is one of those guys that's going to go sooner than people expect. I really loved him like at 12 overall, where the Niners were originally. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, you may want to consider this. And now it's just pretty clear that somebody's going to draft him. Like I'd say 12 through 16, somewhere around there. Just because of his play, he's versatile, just like
Oh
that. And
yeah.
yeah, Farley's just dealing with injury. Like there's that injury question mark. That those type of injuries is something that would have you slip, like a back injury, and your corner. Like we just don't know. Sort of like a D4 situation. We just don't know what the hell is going on there, and the time miss could be something very small. It could be like a season. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah, especially in the if you're in the scheme where it's a lot of, let's say, bump and run, that kind of thing. Yeah, I'll take one hard jam, or you turn, boom, there goes your back, or oh, it's a mild back. So like kind of like you said, the D4 thing, where it's like, oh, it's a mild thing, and then he was gone for this whole last season. Like it went from like, oh, it tightened up to poof, he's gone. Like, yeah, with back injuries, it's
It's the
so
back, the neck, the
yeah,
concussions, and like those calf injuries. Those calf injuries, man, when you hear about them in camp, you're just like, damn, is it an Achilles? Like
yeah,
people are just like really worried. But really those areas, when you have those type of injuries, you gotta take them serious. Like with
yeah.
knee, ankles, even with shoulders, like those can be repaired and pretty easily rehabbed. Those other ones though, man, you gotta be scared a little bit.
Yeah, they're so easy to re-injure, right? Like we saw with Sherman this last season, right? And then hamstrings. I hate hamstrings. Those are the ones I hate because it's like they sit out for 4 games and then they're ready. They get out there and they start running, and there goes that hamstring again because you basically haven't used it for 4 weeks, and then pop, or it tightens up again. I want to hear hamstrings. That's the one that gets me. I'm like, oh, here we go. You
Yeah,
just know
hamstrings
sometimes
are
they
one
come
of
right
those. Yeah, those are just like lingering injuries. It's just like, man, I can't go full speed.
back. Yeah,
But you just, sit out a couple weeks, should be fine. But
yeah,
yeah, it's just concerning when those guys get hurt in the back. And like, yeah, Farley could be one of those guys. He's really good. Like if it wasn't for that back, he'd be the clear, you know, number one
yeah.
corner just because he's that good. So are the Niners gonna risk moving up? I think it's worth it. I think it's worth moving up for a guy like that. But who knows? There's other good corners. Like I don't have them in front of me, but there's some really solid corners. At least don't have the potential as Farley and Horn or even Patrick Surtain. Although Patrick Surtain has been kind of slipping on people's boards, but
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but
yeah, he's like I don't know. I don't know what to say about Patrick Surtain. But
yeah,
it's always something about those Alabama corners that people just like we talked about like those college teams that don't produce quarterbacks, like which team does, right? Which school does? Which one's the factory of quarterbacks? We can't say like that Alabama doesn't produce good corners at least. That's just a stigma. That's
right.
that's just what people want to say to prove their point. That's all it is. But we'll
Yeah,
see.
they're such athletes. It's that thing, right? With cornerbacks, it's especially like somewhere in Alabama. They're such stud athletes, and it's like, well, were you a shutdown cornerback because you're just so much athletically, you're just so further advanced athletically than everybody else, or were you like a really good shutdown corner, right? Like there's it's so hard to say a lot of times with the cornerbacks. It's like, well, if you're just a better athlete than everybody, you're Alabama. Yeah, you're playing. There's some hard games, obviously, but you're also playing some not so good teams that with their receivers, it's like, yeah, that's not a challenge for you. You're just physically better than they are. It doesn't matter what they do.
That's
And
part
so
of the
it's,
challenge, though. I
yeah,
think that with corners, one of those positions that you have to run fast. You have to have like those athletic abilities to like flip your hips and um, you like phenomenal footwork
yeah,
is what I would say. If you don't have that on tape, you're not gonna be a top pick. Like you could be shut down corner if the stats show it. But if you don't have the athleticism to at least compete with these top receivers you're gonna face in the NFL, you'll have no shot to be a top pick. And I think that is one of those rare like because they're known to like deflect the ball, you don't have to have them catch the ball like a receiver. That's why they
right,
always say like, "Oh, he plays defense for a reason because he can't catch the ball."
right,
But
right.
it's like you have to be at least have that athleticism to match that.
and some brains, right? You have to be able to like Sherman is
Like Sherman, yeah,
genius. Like
he's
I mean, the dude is. I mean, dude graduated from Stanford. He's pretty smart, and that's the
yeah,
thing. It's that I think corners learn quickly. It's like you have to be athletic, but you also have to be. You have to study those receivers, right? The schemes. You have to study. You have to know what the quarterback says. What why Sherman's so good is he just puts so much time studying, right? Just study, tendencies of the quarterback, all that. Because otherwise, like once like someone like Shanahan, right? If they see that you're a corner who always bites on this or is kind of lazy, like he's gonna light you up. He's gonna literally, he's gonna sit there while he's watching film, like, got something for that ass. All right, here we go. Like, he's gonna scheme it up, and you're gonna look bad out there. Those good
yeah,
offensive players, and you read those guys will just light you up. So you
yeah.
have to
And even with Sherman, is the reason he slipped all the way to the fifth because he didn't have that athleticism to keep up with those. But in that system, he played in Seattle, and then he came to San Francisco, same similar defensive scheme.
yeah.
It worked out for him, obviously, in his
Yeah.
career. But he's still unsigned. We'll see what happens with him too.
Yeah, I think now it's just I think his athleticism is gotten to the point where it's like, yes, you may be smarter than most corners, and I'm sure he's still at this point. I'm sure he could give a clinic on like every quarterback in the league, right? But it's like your athleticism has slipped to the point where like your smarts isn't gonna make up for it necessarily. Like, do you want to see him against Tyreek Hill? No. Do you want to see him against Hopkins or Galladay? Like, I mean, like you don't want to see that matchup. You're kind of
No.
like, ooh, that's not good. That's kind of where he's at. Maybe if he goes to safety, I could see him being a safety. I know that was something they had talked about before. That would be. I mean, eventually he's going to be a coach, right? We all know he's going to be a coach. He's going to be a D-backs coach. I could see him being a DC one day.
Yeah.
Easily. I
Yeah.
give him 3 years, 4 years. He'll be a coach.
That's true. Yeah, that'd be interesting. But yeah, I mean, again, injuries kind of hurt him this past year and kind of hurt a lot his stock. It was already dwindling down even after the Super Bowl run.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. Um, okay, so after corner, who do you have right
Um,
behind that?
I think I'm with you, a receiver. So my first thing is corner, but second, yeah, I think if you can get another receiver, preferably like you said, the Kendrick Bourne kind of slot guy, kind of what Trent Taylor was supposed to be, right? Like he was supposed to kind of be, and he was at first. I watched like all 5 of those Garoppolo games. Man, Trent was nice. That's such a I don't want to say sad, but just man, he got hurt and it went sideways. But man, great
Yeah.
hands, great routes. I mean, the dude was on third down was just money. He was like our Edelman. He was that guy, like a Wes Welker. Like he was so nice. So I think to get that guy, that it's your third guy, third down like money guy, that slot guy would be my next. I think you would have something very close to actually that probably would make it for a very complete offense, right? You got Ayuk, you got Debo, you got Kittle. If you get that slot guy, oh man, that would be yeah, the running game. Wilson with Mostert, like you're kind of set there, Juice.
Yeah.
You get that slot guy, and if it clicks, man, that's a dirty offense right there. That
Oh yeah. Well, you know what Shanahan also loves to see is like that speedster receiver that could take the top off the defense. Like Travis Benjamin was supposed to be that, but he opted out for the year last year.
yeah,
But yeah, it's something that he looks for, and I'm curious if maybe he has an eye for one of those receivers that can just fly
just
because you
run.
already have kind of like you have Ayuk, you have Debo. Now there's a lot of receivers too that plays very similar to Debo. They're just like a Debo replica. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you kind of get that because Debo, like Brandon Ayuk, is the more like just more of a how should I say this? He's just like a better receiver.
Yeah, he's a more
Like
natural receiver,
yeah,
right? He's a
he's
more
more
natural
natural.
receiver.
Now Debo
Yeah.
coming out of college did run some nice routes. He is nice, but he's used more as a gadget player, right?
Yeah.
And that's where he excels at. Like that's where he's really good. Like put him in the backfield, make him run those jet sweeps, like those reverses. Like that's what he's all about. And then leave him out in the open field because you know he's gonna bully somebody.
Yeah.
And so I think we already have that. And I don't think Shanahan is looking for another one of those guys. I think he's looking for sort of like a born type, like a possession receiver, can pick up those third downs. Is very very good in the red zone. Like Bourne doesn't get enough credit for that. Like he was really good in the red zone,
It was great.
and
Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
he just battled with drops, but there's a reason that the Patriots gave him some money. Like he's really good. And so I think that that's what the Niners should look for. Other than that, should just be maybe a speedster that could just kick, return, punt returns, and just take the top off that defense and allow Kittle, Debo, Ayuk to work the middle.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, honestly, that's where Shanahan excels so well, right? Like, how many times you see, you know, Jimmy or whoever just throws someone's wide open, like in the intermediate at like 15 to 20 yards, and you're like, this is just wide. How did this happen? Like, I mean, he schemes those so well. It's
Yeah,
yeah, that guy can take the top off even more. Oh my, I mean, kind of like Godwin was slash supposed to be. Um, and then if you match it with somebody like, even if it's Mac Jones, right, better arm, someone who can take those shots too. That
yeah,
was the thing. Like, I mean, the last couple of seasons, our deep guys are kind of not used, right? So it's like, okay, you can send a streak, but if I'm the safety, I'm probably gonna let him fly right past me because I'm not thinking that Jimmy is gonna throw that ball. No offense to Jimmy, but it's like I'm not counting on. I'm gonna bet that you're not gonna throw that. I'm gonna bet you're gonna go underneath, right? So if you have that
yeah,
quarterback who will take those shots and does take those shots, yeah, that just opens up the middle, opens up the gadget plays, like you said, for Debo's jet sweeps and stuff. The safeties are backing up. Now you can run some of those reverses. It definitely opens up, allows Shanahan to really, really be creative, which I mean, even this last year, I mean, offense was not bad. I mean, look, Mullins, not that great. Beathard, not that great, but man, like you can see it when they would put those drives together, it's there. The play calling's there. They just didn't have people to execute. They didn't have that quarterback to execute it, right? And that was
yeah.
kind of the whole season was kind of a problem. Like, but you can see it was there. It was there. Like the scheme is good. If you can put that right piece in there, it just makes it click. I mean, for sure.
Speaking of Jimmy, you think if the Niners can't find like a trade partner to trade Jimmy, would it be smarter just to keep him?
Yeah, I think this is the perfect. They and to credit to Lynch and his staff, they somehow finessed a smaller cap, got everybody back, got Trent, got Juice, got everybody they wanted back. I still can't believe they somehow finessed that, and were able to fit Jimmy's contract under the cap. They can keep him, and then next year cut him basically the same as what they could do this year. Um, I think yeah, you run him out there or just make an open competition, and if it's Fields or Jones or whoever it is, and they just blow him out of the water, kind of like Wilson did his rookie year, right? The Fiats had paid Matt Flynn paid him a ton of money in free agency, and he was supposed to be the guy. And Wilson came in, blew him out of the water, and they're like, "Yeah, you gotta go, bro." And I think they just traded him for like a 6 rounder, basically nothing. So, I mean, if you can't find a trade partner, this is the advantage of the Niners knocking it out of the park this offseason, right? Is when we
Yeah,
talked about this, I think the last time we spoke, I think it was the last time we spoke before they made the big trade and I said they can let the draft come to them. They don't have to
right.
force anything. They don't have to make a deal they don't want to make. And they're still, because they nailed it, are still in that position, right?
Yeah,
My thought was they're probably saying, look, they're called to the Patriots. It's probably like, look, you want Jimmy? Is that 15? Is that number one pick? Your number 15 overall. And if you're not offering that, we're not listening. We don't have to listen. We don't
right.
have to make the trade. Like We win either way. If you give us the 15th, great. We'll grab one of those cornerbacks, right? If you don't, cool. We have a starting quarterback who is taking us to a Super Bowl, who we can let lead the team until the next guy's ready. No problem. Like we don't
Yeah.
have cap issues. It's a win-win. That's why nailing this offseason was so vital because it gave them this option, right? They could drop to Trey Lance and say, hey, we're just gonna sit you for a year. No problem. Like we'll let Jimmy take it for this year and you can learn. Like it's a beautiful. I keep Jimmy and let him. You hope you get that Aaron Rodgers right when they drafted Jordan Love last season, right? And he went on Pat McAfee show. He's like, I was pissed. I was drinking. He was
Yeah.
always with the damn big ass chip on his shoulder for some reason. But and you got MVP season out of him. And if Matt LaFleur wasn't a terrible coach, they may have gone to the Super Bowl, may have won another Super Bowl, right? So you're hoping you get that out of Jimmy. Hey, you're pissed off? Great. Go show it on the field. Go throw 40 touchdowns. Go put up an MVP season. Like that's good for you. If we get rid of you, great. We can trade you somewhere, or if we just release you, everybody will throw a bunch of money at you. We get this
Yeah.
like it's a win-win for everybody. And you hope he comes with that attitude. That like, no, I'm gonna show you guys. Great. Please show us. Please. 5 touchdowns
Yeah.
a game. I'll take it.
Because
I'm not
I
I'm
feel
not
like
gonna be upset.
the Jimmy Garoppolo could be still cut like towards the end of training camp, and I believe it's still the same cap hit.
Yeah.
So the Niners really aren't in any rush to ship
Nope.
out Jimmy. Ideally, you want to get a trade done in the draft. That's when you would get, you could get someone in return right then and there. But yeah, I mean, they've been playing it, saying Jimmy's still our guy. We're gonna keep him. He's still in our plans. Probably paraphrasing there, but
No, I
um,
think that's 100%. Well, I think that's actually exactly what they
that's
said.
exactly what they said, right? So,
So yeah,
to me, like obviously you never want to listen to what GMs are saying about current guys there because you're in Arizona. The Cardinals is a prime example of that when they had Josh Rosen
yeah,
and Kyler Murray was there number one. They're like he's our guy, but
yeah. Right.
I don't know if that relationship was there, like Lynch and Shanahan and Jimmy have created here. Who knows? But all I'm saying is, it wouldn't be dumb to keep him. Now you are like, if you end up just keeping him in the roster, I do think that you do end up paying him like 25 million for the year, which that money could go to like a Fred Warner extension, but we'll see.
Yeah, if he's not the starter, I think they either cut or they'll take one out from him. Like I said, if the rookie comes and just blows him out of the water, just you're like, holy crap, this is the guy. Like, oh my god, then yeah, you can't keep him on. You can't keep Jimmy as your backup making 25 million, whatever he's supposed to make. Like that would just, and I think it's just bad for the team too, right? Like you don't want Jimmy sitting there and every time the rookie throws a bad pass or maybe has a bad game, and then the players and the fans are kind of turning, looking at Jimmy like, should we, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're gonna make
Yeah.
that cut, it's got to be a complete like it'd be like you break up with somebody and then they're still live with you and you get a new girlfriend. Like you can't have your ex living with you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's got to be a
That'd be
clean break. You got to
awkward.
be like, no, you got to go. Like you got to get out of the
Yeah.
house. I can't. This it can't work like that. So I think the same thing here. If he's not the starter, yeah, you cut or trade him. Probably trade him. Pick up the phone, call the Patriots again. Hey, because the Patriots gave Newton. I mean, that wasn't a ton of money. That wasn't even that's barely starters money. So it's not like
Who? Newton?
uh yeah, they barely gave Newton. I mean, that was a whack. I mean, it was a very low contract, right? So they could easily cut Newton or just make him the backup and say, okay, Jimmy, you're our starter again. And it wouldn't really phase them at all. So, if you feel like, hey, this isn't working, yeah, you call the Patriots again. Like, look, third rounder, fourth rounder, we'll make us an offer.
Yeah.
Cheese
It's
sandwich.
just I don't know. Like I was thinking the Patriots, like if their plan is to draft a quarterback this year, why would they need Jimmy, right?
Yeah.
They have Cam already as the veteran. But if they're just looking to patch the quarterback position, maybe because they're picking what, 15? Um
15.
So, you think Mac Jones is going to fall to them at 15? They may have to move up to get him. And, Bill Belichick is really stubborn. Like, that's Mac Jones is like a perfect fit for New England. Like,
Yeah, and that thing
that's
I've seen a lot of the mocks. Yeah, that mocked New England moving up. And that's why this draft I think is so just depending on how the chips fall, right? Like let's say it goes 1, 2, 3, Lawrence, Wilson, let's say Lance. Let's say never say Lance. And then after that, like Fields could easily fall to 8, or I think Carolina's at. They just traded for Darnold. You know, I think the Patriots definitely pick up that phone, call the Panthers, like, hey, we'll take Fields. Like, what do you want for that number 8 pick?
right.
Or even Lance could flip. It really, honestly, I think it depends on what Atlanta wants to do. Like, honestly, Atlanta's like kind of the linchpin right there. Like, if they say, you know what, if let's say it's Fields there at 4, he's from Georgia, right? Like, and they're like, yeah, screw it. Like, we want our guy of the future. And they pulled the trigger. Does New England then pick up the phone for the Niners? Be like, all right, we were hoping one of those guys would fall, Matt Jones or somebody else. Like, hey, what do you want for Jimmy? Maybe, it's just it's going to be very interesting to see how those quarterbacks kind of shake
Yeah.
out.
Just
You
how,
know,
just where the chips fall. I agree. So we're kind of up in the air with that. But yeah, I mean, less than a week.
yeah, I
You gonna
know.
join? You gonna join me on my live? I'm gonna join
Yeah.
you
Oh,
live.
yeah, for sure. This is going to be, like I said, this is going to be a fun draft to watch. Not just for what the Niners do. We're going to be excited, right? Like when they took Bosa that, a couple years ago, I was like, all right, cool. And then I kind of watched the rest of the draft. I didn't really care a whole lot. This draft, because like there's gonna be a lot of teams that 5 years, 6 years from now, we're gonna be looking at who did well with this draft, who didn't do well with this draft, right? Because there's a lot of can't miss players, Kyle Pitt, all the quarterbacks, the receivers, where the Dolphins do, there's a lot of those can't miss players, and a lot of teams are making trades and whatnot. We're gonna look. I think this is that draft. We're gonna look back and be like, wow, this draft shaped kind of the future of the league, kind of deal. So for better
It's
or
true.
worse. Yeah, hopefully the Niners are on the
You don't
better
think
end
the
of that,
rest,
right?
right? You don't think the NFC West, the rest of the teams are kind of like shaken by the Niners being number 3 overall? That like if Shanahan gets his guy, it is over for the rest of the
Yeah,
teams in the NFC West, and they know that. They know that. They've made some boneheaded like trades to get a certain player, like a position player. The Rams are a prime example of that. They give first round picks like it was nothing.
yeah.
They got a quarterback though, right? They got Stafford, and the Niners were. I do believe they were in on them,
Oh
and
yeah,
that probably pissed off Shanahan. Like what? Let me show you something else. And
yeah,
now they're here, and we see this Seattle kind of their stock is kind of coming down a little bit. Russell Wilson, reported that he wants out. Who knows if that's true? But
right.
Arizona, I don't think they're really going anywhere. Kyler Murray is good, not great. We'll see how the coaching staff, the biggest question mark there. The
Yeah, and they're
Niners,
trying, right? They got JJ, they got AJ Green. Like I think this is Kimes kind of he's pushing you like, hey, maybe we can snake a time. I think that's his whole thing was like, hey, yeah, if the Niners get a quarterback, they're probably a year or two away. So let's see if we can sneak one in here, right? Like I said, Seattle coming down, the Rams are where the Rams are. I think the Cardinals are thinking like, hey, maybe we can sneak one in. Like this is our window. It's a 1 season window. Let's see if Murray makes the jump and Watt plays his ass off and AJ Green. Like maybe we can kind of sneak in and take that 1 year kind of and then be kind of
you're
in
right.
after
To me, like Arizona is one of those teams that doesn't really like scare me because the thing is that it's Kyler Murray or bust for them, right? They don't have like I always feel like with the Shanahan thing, like they love running the football, not turn the ball over on defense. It's getting sacks. and things like that. What I don't know what the identity is for Arizona. You
It's
probably do.
Kyler Murray. It's Kyler
It's
Murray. You
Kyler
said
Murray or
it.
bust, right? So it's just
Yeah.
like Seattle. They're like the poor man Seattle.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. We saw it last season. Once Kyler got hurt and he couldn't really run so much, or he didn't want to run anymore, you saw it. Like he being in the pocket is not where he wants to be. And you saw it was not good. He didn't have the mobility. And then the offense just fell apart. Like the Cardinals the last two games couldn't beat CJ Beathard and then couldn't beat the Rams, who
Yeah,
literally threw out a quarterback who had never started before. And I think they put a total of like 25 points in 2 games. It's supposed to be some offensive guru in Kingsbury with his guy, Kyler Murray. And it's like, that's it. That's all you put up. They put, I think it was like 30 points total. And one of those games with either a win in either one would have gotten them to the playoffs. It's like, that's the best you could do. And I think both were at home too. It's like, that's the best you could do. Like, and because Kyler Murray was nothing, they have no running game. Drake went to the Raiders,
that's a
you
huge
know, and
loss.
they got Connor, but it's like Kingsbury isn't like you watch. It is
I don't
very much
trust them.
Kyler Murray. Yeah,
Yeah,
and if you can shut down Hopkins and kind of limit Hopkins, and you can create pressure on Kyler, that's it. That's
yeah, yeah. We could have easily beat them last year. Like if we were
yeah,
just healthy, just like a little bit more healthy, we could have
yeah.
had them.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that first game he just kind of ran all over him. Fine. The second game, yeah, they shut him down. He just was CJ freaking Beathard, and that's
That
it.
first game, we should have won. Like
Oh yeah,
we gave it away to
yeah,
them.
yeah.
That was
They,
like,
they, they know, and that's you brought up with Shanahan. The thing I think people forget about because of like the passing and all that's like he wants to run. That's his thing. He wants to just beat you the f up. And that Cardinals game, that second game is a perfect example. Jeff Wilson went ham, and that's what he
prime
wants to do. He
example.
just wants to beat you up. That's it. He
Yeah,
just wants to beat you up. It's great.
prime
It's
example
beautiful.
was the NFC uh title game where he
Yeah,
just kept running. Like you can't stop me. I'm just gonna keep running. And
yeah,
people were like, "Damn, Jimmy didn't get to throw the ball much." Yeah, because Green Bay couldn't stop the run for shit. That's why.
yeah. And I think he loves to do that. Like I'm just gonna beat you up. It's like watching boxing. That guy can just throw a beautiful jab, and it just the jab, one jab by itself doesn't mean a whole lot, but it's just after 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rounds, right? And you see the other guy's face, and it looks like ground beef, right? And there's a satisfaction to that. Like, yeah, I just beat you down. You have to, throw a haymaker. I just beat you down. Just that jab, just bam, 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 bam.
Yep.
You see those guys' bodies just wears them down. There's something there's just I think Shanahan gets like a guilty pleasure of that. Like, yeah, I just beat you all day with jabs and body shots.
And then
I didn't even
yeah,
have
and
to throw. I didn't have to throw a haymaker. I just beat you down. You know.
but just
I
to
think
kind of wrap this up, they don't. We Shanahan does like to pound you, ground and pound you. But when push comes to shove, I still think he needs someone to throw that haymaker, make that
Oh yeah,
play, and I think that's where we're getting at here in less than a week.
yeah, definitely. If you have that guy who can do that, then it opens up everything, right? Then as a defender, like what do you defend? Do you defend the run? Well, then he's just going to throw the haymakers. Okay, you defend the haymakers, and he's going to beat you up with the body shots and the jabs. Like like and then you keep
Yeah,
your opponent on balance, and then then you see that like what was the game? The Carolina game 2 seasons ago where they threw up a 50 burger, right? I mean, he was
yeah,
hitting them with everything. I mean, just little quick handoffs to Debo. I mean, it was just. I mean,
Jason Ghost
Carolina. Keekly just straight up, no offense to Luke Keekly, straight up gave
retired
up
after
towards
that.
the end of the game. Yeah, he during the game, there was one where he did like a little weak little arm, like he was just done. He's like,
Yeah,
nah, I'm just good here. I just don't care
yeah, they were chasing ghosts in that game. I remember that, and I think that's the point in time Luke Kuechly was like, "Yeah, I'm in this league."
anymore. Yeah, just put that poor man to retirement.
Yeah,
He's
shout
like,
out to Luke. But all right, Aaron. Well, I appreciate you joining, man. It was way too long, and
yeah,
I'm looking
man.
forward to having you next week in our draft little thing. So I can't
Yeah,
wait.
this is gonna be great. It's gonna be a fun draft to watch, man.
Yeah, oh no doubt. gonna be one that's gonna go down in history for sure, man.
Oh
All
yeah.
right, well, I'll catch you on the next one, man. Take care.
All right, man. Go Niners.
Go Niners.